That's
So,
because I've been speaking English for 30 freaking years.
oh my God. What can I do to get you to that?
Thousands of hours. It's my native language. I don't have to think about it. It just comes naturally.
Can you tell me your full name, please?
Yes, my name is Nicholas Andrew Patterson.
And how should I call you?
Just call me Nick.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Let's start with the part one of the speaking test. We're going to talk about home. What kind of housing do you live in?
Currently, I live in an apartment in the center of Saigon. Currently, I don't like the location I live in because it doesn't feel like very much of a Vietnamese neighborhood, but more of like a mixed, like a pish posh or mixing of like grifters and like tourists and non-native Saigonese. And I feel like a lot of people are trying to take money from me because that's kind of the mentality of this area. As you probably know, it's very famous for the walking street or Mỹ-Việt, right?
Who are you living with?
Currently, I live with my girlfriend of about 1.5 years.
And how long have you lived there?
In my current location?
Yes, it is.
I don't remember the exact amount of time, but I think around 8 months.
Let's move on to talk about science. Do you like science?
I love science.
Well, that's a good sign. Why do you like science?
I love science because it gives us a framework in which we can use to explain phenomena that happens around us in the world and make sense of things that otherwise would be impossible to make sense of. For example, gravity. We can't see or touch or feel gravity, but with science, we can rationally describe what gravity is and help us understand what something that we can't see is, right?
And when did you start to learn about science?
I think you start learning about science from the time you can start remembering things. I mean, you're always experimenting with stuff, right? Even from a young age, you put things in your mouth and you taste them. I mean, that's science in itself, right?
Which science subject is interesting to you?
Ooh, I don't know if I could pick a single subject because there's so many. And there's so much information to know in each field, and I find all of it incredibly fascinating. So I think it would be unfair to pick one. However, if I had to pick a specific one, I think anthropology, which is the major or field of study that I focus on in university, I find it that incredibly fascinating because it gives us a way to look back and you study like ancient cultures, you study ancient languages, civilizations, and it kind of gives you a map of how we came to be and how the world became what it is now.
All right, now let's talk about watching sports. Do you like watching programs on TV about sports?
Yes, I'm a sports fanatic. I love watching sports. I think my favorite sport to watch on television is probably American football, not to be confused with football, or soccer, as some people may know it. Yeah, I have a lot of very fond memories growing up going to football games. We have a very big football team, like college football team in the town I grew up in. So I have tons of memories going to football games with my friends. We did a thing called tailgating where everyone goes to the stadium very early and they grill and cook food and you drink beer and you play games and you'd spend all day outside the stadium doing that. And then when the game starts, you go in the stadium and watch the game. So I have a lot of fond memories with my friends.
So do you watch live sports games?
Since I've moved to Vietnam, the time difference has made it difficult, but I do when I can. If it's a sporting event that I find particularly fascinating or particularly exciting, like stakes are high or a really fun matchup to watch, and yes, I try to watch it.
All right, now let's move on to part 2, the speaking test. It's your 1 minute. Okay, your 1 minute is over. Can you start speaking now?
Yes, so historical event that I would like to talk about is a war or a conflict that is known by many different names. In Vietnam, it is known as the American War. In America, it is known as the Vietnam War. It is also known as the Second Indochina War. Depends on what perspective that you are talking about it from. It lasted from 1955 all the way to 1975 when the country finally unified under the Northern Communist regime known as the Republic of Vietnam, or sorry, the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, I believe, which was led by Les Duan, if I am not mistaken. He was pretty much in charge, and Ho Chi Minh was more of an optics kind of leader, not really in control anymore, but we don't have to get into that too much. It was a political, ideological struggle, which was fought between the communist North and the free, like capitalist, I guess you could say, South, which was backed by the United States, and the North was backed by China and Russia. It was a like a conflict that was a byproduct of an even larger war, which is known as the Cold War, which was between, again, political ideologies between the United States and the USSR at the time. The US sought to stop the spread of communism, which is what they claim was their main cause of entering in the conflict or backing the Southern government at the time. And if you dive deeper into it, what it really is a struggle of one country trying to gain independence. I think under communism, it was able to unite itself, which was its main goal.
Yes.
However,
yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, as much I'd love for you to go on for me to get to know more about Vietnamese history.
It was also a brutal, like, civil war in many respects.
Now let's move on to part 3, when we talk about topics relating to what you have said in part 2.
Okay.
So, do your parents think that learning history is important?
I know my dad believes that history is incredibly important. He himself is a big fan of history. I think that's something that we have in common. So often we like to read or watch documentaries or just read lots of books and then talk about, I guess, political ideology, global politics, history, and how it relates to the world today. So I think that's something that we share in common and we definitely like to discuss.
What are the benefits of museums?
The benefit of museums. I think they serve a couple different benefits. One is teaching and preserving history. 2 could be not history, but entertainment rather. Yeah, maybe like preserving history. It could, education and entertainment would be my 3 main answers.
All right. So are museums in your country free of charge? Or let's say in Vietnam, free of charge? Or would you know about that?
I don't believe so. I think there's an admission price. I've only been to maybe like one. I've been to a few museums in Vietnam. I believe you had to pay to enter. However, I think in the United States, it is the same. I think they use the admission fee to help upkeep the museum and fund like studies and, you know, all of the work that goes into curating a museum. There are a few exceptions, however. I think some places are free. I know a couple of places in New York City, they have art exhibitions and art museums, and they ask for donations instead of like paying an admission fee. It's strongly advised that you donate even just a little bit, but you don't have to, right?
So which way is better for learning history, through reading books or visiting museums?
I think both would be a viable strategy. I think you'll get more information from books because it goes a lot deeper into a specific subject.
So do major cities in your country all have museums?
Most major cities in the United States, I know, have museums of some type, something that they're famous for, history museums, art museums. I mean, really depends on where you go, but I know most major metropolitan cities do have museums, and I even think Vietnam is the same way.
Thank you very much. That's the end of your speaking test.
Oh boy, all right.
You were excellent. Oh my God, you're mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing. I told you it'd be easiest, but I speak English. I don't have to think about it. That's because I've been speaking English for 30 freaking years.
Oh my God. What can I do to get you to that?
Thousands of hours. It's my native language. I don't have to think about it. It just comes naturally.
And especially that you've been studying about history. It comes as second nature for you.
Yeah, I think if you talk to someone different, they would maybe have different answers.